Okay, here we go. Welcome to the February meeting of the Land Use Committee. My name is Elizabeth Arian, and we have two items on the agenda. We do have a quorum present. My co-chair, Andreas Migias, is here also. And our vice chair is on his way, Jerry Caliendo. So I think, Mr. Sabaro, you are the person who is doing the presentation,
Yes, I'm here. Hi, everybody.
30th Avenue? Okay.
Yes. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Can I go ahead and share my screen?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Um, Okay.
Can everybody see the presentation?
Yes, it's visible. Yes.
Great. So good evening, everybody. My name is Joe Sabaro from Ackerman LLP. I'm joined by Manny Russell from Ownership. We represent the applicant CG Stone Realty in connection with this ULURP application. CG Stone Realty operates the Key Food grocery store at the property known as 4211 30th Avenue in Astoria. The applicant is seeking a zoning map amendment from an R5 C12 to R6A C24, and also changing the R5 C12 to R5 generally along the north side of 30th Avenue between 42nd and 43rd Street. The applicant is also proposing a zoning text amendment to establish a mandatory inclusionary housing area under MIH option 1. This will facilitate the enlargement of the existing one-story Key Food grocery store into a 5-story mixed residential and commercial building. These actions will enable the applicant to continue to operate their business and remain competitive in the market for years to come. The project will provide new affordable housing in Astoria on a wide street in a transit-oriented area, while also allowing the grocery store to improve and remain competitive. Here we have a zoning change map. The rezoning area is located, as I said, in an R5 C12 district, and it's been zoned that way since 1961. The zoning change map shows the proposed rezoning area outlined with the black dotted lines and the map to the right, mapping the R6A C24 zoning district. It encompasses 9 lots in total. That's lot 1, 2, part of lot 39, 40, 41, 44, 45, 47, and 48, all along 30th Avenue. R5 C12 zones allow for residential uses and have a maximum FAR of 2.0 for qualified residential sites. Unfortunately, the district's low permitted FAR significantly restricts the applicant's ability to expand on the site. The proposed rezoning to R6A C24 will increase the permitted residential floor area to 3.9 FAR and continue to allow commercial uses. So next, we'll have some maps just to give you a sense of the overall neighborhood and the context. This is a zoning map highlighting the rezoning area circled in red and the existing R5 C12 district. Here we have the tax map with the development site of the 2 lots, lot 41 and 44, highlighted in red. This is an area map with the development site outlined with the dashed red line and the rezoning area outlined in green. It encompasses the southern portion of block 698, and it's between 30th Avenue to the south and then 28th Avenue to the north. 30th Avenue is a key east-west corridor, and it forms the southern boundary of the block. Existing land uses, as you can see on the map here, they primarily include mixed use and commercial buildings along 30th Avenue and Steinway Street, and mostly residential use on the mid-blocks. There are predominantly 1- and 2-family and multifamily residences and mixed use and commercial buildings ranging from 1 to 5 stories in height. Here we have an aerial view of the site. The site is currently improved with a 1-story commercial building and it's owned and operated by the applicant. It was built in 1950, and it has approximately 7,800 square feet of floor area. Here's another photo looking north toward 28th Avenue. You can see the Key Food grocery store on the corner of 30th Avenue and 43rd Street. And as you can see, the site, the surrounding areas, they're heavily residential and commercial. This is a Google Street View image. Again, looking from 30th Avenue, you can see the grocery store as well as the adjacent vacant lot. So a little bit about the proposed development. The enlarged building, it will be 5 stories, rising to a height of 60 feet, with 39,916 square feet and a total FAR of 3.9. This will include 30,200 square feet of residential, as well as 9,716 square feet of commercial for the supermarket. It'll have 16 residential bicycle parking spaces, as well as a solar green roof with recreation space. In total, there'll be 32 dwelling units with an MIH set aside for permanently income restricted units under MIH option 1. So that gives you about 8 units under MIH option 1. And we're proposing a mix of studios, 1, 2, and 3 bedroom apartments. The expanded grocery store, we're adding an additional 2,768 square feet on the ground floor, as well as a new entryway, increased capacity, and an improved layout. There'll also be additional 2,788 square feet of accessory storage space in the cellar. Here we have an illustrative rendering of the project looking from 30th Avenue. This is the site plan, again, from 30th Avenue and 43rd Street. You can see the new residential entrance here and the new supermarket entrance. This is the cellar, this with the expansion portion here and showing the accessory storage space for the supermarket operations. And the proposed first floor plan with the improved layout for the supermarket. This is an illustrative elevation from 30th Avenue again. You can see the setback here along 43rd Street and another along 28th Avenue. Another elevation from 43rd. So next we have just some information on the affordability mix and the unit distribution. So as I mentioned, we're proposing to map MIH option 1, 32 units in total, which would yield about 8 MIH units. So this would be 25% of the residential floor area, restricted at a weighted average of 60% AMI. So typical breakdown, you'd see something with 40, 60, and 80% income brackets. So in this illustration, you can see 3 units at 40% AMI, 3 at 60, and 2 at 80. And these are the current monthly rents, assuming tenants pay electricity, and this is the income limit for 2024. And here we have a proposed illustrative unit distribution for the whole project. As I said, there's a mix of studios, 1s, 2s, and 3s. I would just note that we are including about 38% of the units in the larger size 2 and 3 bedroom types. So point that out. And that's all for the presentation. Thank you for your time and happy to take any questions.
Thank you for your presentation. Are there any questions from the board, from the committee members? Yes, okay. Amy?
Hi, I'm sorry. Thank you for the presentation. I don't remember. I think you came to us once before, right?
I did.
I can't remember. Did I ask whether or not, like, what's the method of building? Are you demoing the existing single story, or are you building on top of it?
So the plan is actually for the grocery store to remain where they are now during construction and remain operational. It'll be constructed in two phases. It's an enlargement, so the existing structure will remain. Phase one will involve a horizontal extension, and this process involves adding steel columns, which will be installed from the foundation and will support the phase two addition. So once the steel columns go in on the first floor, they'll transition to the phase two construction. That's the vertical enlargement.
And from the Google view, you also had a lot that is empty, and that's where you're adding that um, sort of new construction.
That'll be the new portion. Yep.
And will that have a basement?
Yes, there is a cellar in this building.
And the existing Key Food now has a basement as well, right?
Yes, it does.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, next up is Jacqueline Ibarra.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. Adding to the current conversation, my question is, you said that the Key Food, the supermarket tenant, the aim is to have that supermarket operate during construction. Is there a do we foresee that tenant to inhabit that space post construction as well?
Yes, so the Key Food will remain and the same owner operator will also remain.
Okay, perfect. Because this is really right in my neighborhood, and that Key Food is really integral to the community. It's flanked by two elementary schools as well as several residential buildings, and it really is a staple in the community.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And that's why it's important, I think, for the applicant here to be able to improve the building, offer, first class product to the neighborhood, just so that they can remain competitive for years and stay in the neighborhood. So that's certainly the intent.
mhm. And then my last question is, could you just review the construction period or timetable for both phase one and phase two?
Sure. So I know we're anticipating starting construction in 2026. We do have Manny Russell from ownership here. I think he can give a little bit more insight as to when they anticipate to complete and reopen. Manny, are you on?
Yes. Good evening. How's everybody doing?
Hi, Manny.
The intention is that once the first phase, as Joseph was saying, is to do the horizontal enlargement and then go up with columns and build basically a skeleton and be able to work on the vertical portion. Since it's going to be phased upon approval from DOB, once hopefully we get through this process, we think it's going to be 26, 27 when that vertical part will be done. Depending on how long we go through this process, we're thinking 26, 27 for the horizontal. And then there's no real timetable because we only have preliminaries really on the vertical, but it's going to be like 27, 28, I think.
Thank you for that.
No worries.
Okay, Brian Hunt?
Hello, thank you for the presentation. I know you're a little bit a ways from this yet, but do you plan on using union labor on this project?
Manny, do you have a thought on that?
Yeah, at the moment, that's not something we discussed. We just, some of these operators we've done other projects with. It hasn't been a point to bring up to do union. I think it's probably gonna be open shop.
Okay, but they'll consider, we've dealt with, the reason I asked, we've dealt with a number of projects that have stalled due to bad actors in our neighborhood. There's examples of it all over Astoria. We're dealing with developers that are coming in now that still want to build. And some of their, if you go up 30th Avenue past Key Food up into the upper 40s, you have a slew of mechanical contract, all different types of contractors, subcontractors for every trade, that are all right here in this neighborhood, right there on 30th Avenue, no less. And it's just something that our community is concerned about because we have a lot of union members that live in the community, that walk past that every day, that shop there, that shop in the neighborhood, and also have their businesses right here in Astoria. And I think a lot of them are getting tired of watching outside developers come in and not treat the neighborhood the way we feel like it should be treated, to be honest with you. If it's something that would be considered or taken to note, then I'd be more inclined to be for the project. But if it's not going to be union or if it's not going to be considered, I'm not for it at all.
Okay, I'll bring it back to the partners and, I guess get back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Evie?
Yes, thank you. Sorry, I had to step out, so I'm not sure if you said whether the supermarket would be in operation during all phases or just phase one. Is it also going to be in operation during phase two?
Yeah, the intention is that it's operation during phase 2 as well.
So when you say the intention, does that mean yes or no? Or is it
Yes.
going to depend on certain things? I guess I just want to
Right.
dissect.
So
That's going to be a question.
Right. The plan is for it to be to remain open while all this work happens. The only reason why I say the intention is because right now we don't have our structurals done. So we have to put in columns so that they can go up. And that's some of that work is overnight during after hours, right? So they can install the footing, install the columns through the roof, and then have that skeleton stick out from the roof. And it should be no problem, but that's the plan. That's our intention. And I don't see any unforeseen issue where it would, it would change, but things happen.
So when you say after hours, there's going to be after hours construction, like how late are you?
Well, we'll request it from the DOB when we get to that phase. It's going to be mostly for the steel, just because we can't do it during the day because if the store is to remain open, we won't be able to close it we won't be able to install the steel. Again, depending on what the structural engineer designs, but there's going to be a couple of columns, so that has to be done overnight.
Okay. Obviously there'd be compliance with noise ordinances and stuff like that. Okay.
100%.
Okay, just because that is a residential neighborhood, I don't know if you can have construction at 3 a.m. So
Yeah, no, I think they'll probably close the store earlier those days, and we'll work with the DOB and follow the guidelines for the after-hour variances that allow us to work X period of times, and most of that work, we'll try to limit it to just that, because once that's up, then everything else should be okay.
thank you. Just one more question. I think when you came to us the first time, we had asked for fewer studios, but I don't really know if that's changed at all. So I'd like for you to kind of consider that, just because we have there's been lots of studios built in this community and not enough larger units. So
Okay, thank you for the point. We will revisit that. As it stands now, there is about, like I said, 38% 2s and 3s, but we'll consult with the architect to see if we can make any adjustments there.
thank you.
Mr. Sparrow, can you tell me, did you do any changes to the plan and any increases in the number of apartments from the last time you were here? You were here in April of 20.
Yes.
And with the City of Yes Housing Opportunity, I wanted to know what is the difference in the project now as opposed to when you first presented it?
So I think we have about, it was 30 units at the time then, now it's 32. The commercial space is a bit larger. The bump in FAR as a result of City of Yes was 0.3. So originally it was 3.6, now we're at 3.9.
Okay,
So small increase, modest increase in floor area. But the height is the same and the unit count is just about the same.
okay. I just took a look at the EAS today, so I don't have, I'll save my questions for public hearing if there are any. Could you expand a little on which sites in the area are considered to be potential development sites? I think there are 2 or 4 there. If you can get one of the maps on the screen to show us.
Sure, I don't know if I don't have that information offhand, but I can respond to your question maybe after the hearing. I can put it in an email or a letter from the other sites.
Okay. There are 2 projected development sites. One is an L-shaped property. I don't
That's,
along 42nd Street. And the is along 30th Avenue and 43rd Street. It's block 698, lot 41 and 44.
right, and then I see those are our sites, 41 and 44. That's the development site highlighted, and then the other projected site is lots 1 and 45.
Okay, I can't, the lot numbers are too small on this.
Okay, yeah, so here is a development site, 41 and 44.
Oh, so they're talking about your site.
Right, and yes, our site here, 41 and 44.
So no, there are 2 other projected development sites that are not owned by the applicant.
Yeah, so lot 1 here and then 45 adjacent.
So, okay. Do you happen to know what, let me see. Those are considered the second site? Okay.
Yes.
So according to this, there's the potential of having 31 units on that site. On the, what is that, 46?
45.
The one where you're at, oh, that's my arrow, not your arrow. Okay.
Yeah, 45 right
Next
here.
to the site, yeah.
Mhm.
So that's a potential 31 units over there. Projected. And another 32 on the other side, or is that 32 yours?
Ours is 32.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right, just for edification, for the committee members.
Yeah, I can review the information on that and get you something post hearing.
Okay. I didn't. Okay, I think that's all the info. There was an issue about loading the last time you were here. How are you dealing with that? It's just from the street that
So
you're
the loading occurs. Yeah, so it's still deliveries. The loading occurs on 43rd Street here. And we actually think, given now that we'll have the additional accessory storage space in the cellar, be able to hold more items at once and hopefully have less delivery. So the thought is that from the delivery loading perspective, this might actually make it a better situation.
okay. Richard.
I'm sorry, Liz, you took the words right out of my mouth. That's what I was going to
Sorry, I didn't see you there. That's why I asked.
No, I asked later. So, okay, so good. Yeah, this is very important. That's a very busy neighborhood, transportation in general. Now, because this is 30 units, right? Kind of environmental study needs to be on, or traffic study. Liz, I'm not sure of the criteria now. Stuff has changed. Do you know what's going to be needed in the ULURP
For what?
or traffic study?
I didn't see one. There's only an EAS
Mhm.
here. I didn't see a traffic analysis, but I may not have looked through the whole thing. Usually those are done full scale when it's an EIS, and this was not an
There
EIS.
was
Yeah.
the analysis of the transportation included in the EAS, and it was determined that there would be no significant impact with respect to transportation. So, yeah, I mean that was good news.
Okay. Good luck. Okay, that was my main.
There's always never an impact. Okay, almost always never an impact. So
There's no parking in this, right?
No parking. It's not required post city of yes.
Oh, it's near transportation anyways.
Mhm.
Okay. Mhm.
In the inner transit. Yeah.
Mhm.
okay. I think I'm wrapped up with, Jacqueline has another question.
Thank you, Elizabeth. It's just for awareness and staying on the conversation and topic of transportation and traffic. I just want to point out and for the record, and emphasize that 30th Avenue is highly congested with residential or privately owned cars, the Q18 MTA bus. So it's very, very congested, along with the yellow school buses, because there are two elementary schools that are flanked there, and there's a middle school that is right down the block. So I would really urge, the developer and the client that's looking into this. You said that the deliveries are mainly on 43rd Street, and I do have to correct that because I've seen the supermarket vendors for the suppliers park their large scale bulk trucks and cover and be in the way of the Q18 bus on 30th Avenue. So please consider, that response because, with construction, with the transportation being what it is and the traffic on that avenue being what it is, please plan for that. So I just want to highlight that because it's no easy feat with the traffic that is on 30th Avenue. That's all.
Thank you. We appreciate the feedback.
It concerns me that your deliveries are on the side street. Isn't 43rd Street also where the St. Joseph School has access points for pickup and releasing the children in the afternoon? Or
It does, as does PS 70 on 43rd Street and 42nd Street.
okay, so perhaps you can do something about getting a specified loading zone for your client. Whether it's a 24-hour loading zone, I don't think it would be necessary, but at least during business hours, to at least have a designated place for your trucks.
Are you suggesting on a different street or
On the street.
on 43rd?
Well, wherever, let's see. I don't know what's going on specifically on 30th Avenue. There are probably meters in front of your your store. I don't know how DOT would react to having that taken away from them, but either corner, either side of your facility
Okay.
should have a designated area.
Okay. We can definitely look into that.
Yeah, and if you can work something out with DOT before the public hearing, that would be great.
Okay.
Evie, hand up.
Yeah, I have a question as to why, in terms of the affordable units, there are no 3 bedrooms that are available, that are going to be available at the 40% AMI.
Let me just pull up the chart here in a second.
And
So
there's no, and there's no 2 bedrooms at the 40% AMI.
yeah, this is just an illustrative representation. I just put this together myself. But yeah, we're open to changes to this. This is just for illustration. Would the community board like to see the larger units at 40?
I think
Some?
we'd like to see, not just studios at the lower AMI. I mean,
Mhm.
well, first of all, especially since there's going to be no parking, right? And that's supposed to lower the cost, right? Isn't that what that was part of the rationale for no parking? Because it makes construction that much more expensive. So it would be great, since you don't have that parking requirement anymore, to just see some more affordability
Okay.
for families who, we want to allow families to remain in Astoria, or families who might not be wealthy to move here as well. So would be great to see some 2 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms at the 40% AMI as
Okay.
well.
Yeah, we'll definitely take a look at that for the next presentation.
And Richard?
Yes, just wanted to bring up in terms of the deliveries and stuff. I know it's city policy where they're trying to promote as much as possible in the future of night deliveries. So I suggest that that be considered, as long as you can also do it in an area not too close to the residences where it's waking people up. A la the garbage trucks coming at 5 a.m. So that may be a situation where you could actually do deliveries in front of the building there, where at night, even if there are meters there, they could be inactive during that time, and it may solve a lot of problems. Is the facility 24-hour supermarket?
Manny, do you have an idea what the hours will be?
I think the hours are going to remain the same. It's not a
What are they
24
now?
hours.
What are the hours now?
Tell you right now. And they're open till like 10 or something. Yeah, till 10. So their hours are 7 to 10, basically every day.
Well, you may want to consider at least having a basic staff doing stocking and receiving at night. I mean, a lot of supermarkets do that, and I think that that's an operational way you could relieve a lot of these delivery issues and issues with street traffic and things like that. That's a solution a lot of supermarkets have, and they have a need for stocking during the night anyways. So
We'll
Thank
definitely.
Thank you. It definitely makes sense. Can discuss that with the vendors and the ownership.
Okay. Are there any, I only have 3 people here. Are there any, raise your voice this time if there are any other board members who, committee members who have questions, because I'm not getting everyone on my screen. Could we have our
Liz, Jerry's on the
Sure.
line. Unfortunately, I had to use my wife's phone, but I'm on.
There
So I
you
just wanted to make the statement that obviously I have a conflict of interest, number one, and I've been on the call for the past like 10, 15 minutes, not the beginning.
Okay. Thank you. I didn't see you at all, so, and I knew that you would be making the comment about the conflict of interest. Sandy also?
Yes, Liz, I as well.
Okay,
And we have another employee who did
Thank
the
you.
design. Her name is Rachel Spampinato, who actually did it. Nellie didn't do this one. Rachel did. So I believe she's on the call.
okay, I don't see her on my screen at all.
She's in Spain.
Oh. Good
She
for her.
works abroad.
I wish I was. Evie?
Yeah, I just wanted to note that there were some the chat isn't open, but there were just some, I guess,
Oh.
concerns about noise and about the church and this being kind of conflicting with the church across the street and the character of the neighborhood and the lack of more than 8 affordable units. So just wanted to highlight that.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I have like 5 different things. That's my limit to keep track of. But it's going to be in my transcript, so I will see it. Okay, if there are no other questions, I will thank you again for the presentation. The public meeting, the public hearing is, I'm sorry, I don't have the date in front of me. March
18th.
Thank you. March 18th. Okay.
Okay. Thank
See
you,
you.
everybody, for your time.
Thank you.
If you can respond to some of the issues beforehand, it could make it into the report which we give the board. We write up a report and they receive it before the hearing. So it might make it easier, less questions, and their questions will be answered if you can give us that information.
Sure.
Okay?
Yeah, we'll put together a response before the public hearing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Take care.
Thank you, everybody.
Oh, second item. Okay, I just want to confirm people who are present at the meeting. Sandy and Jerry, myself, Evie, Amy, Jacqueline, Brian, Richard, Andreas, and that's all I have. Anyone else did I miss? Okay. Second item on the agenda.
Madam Chair, I didn't hear you say Brian Hunt. Please forgive me.
I did say I have him listed.
Oh, I missed it. I apologize.
Okay. Next on the agenda is city planning. And another big study they're doing, I believe. So Colin, do you want to introduce your colleagues and take it away?
Sure. Hi, Liz. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. Before we get started, I just wanted to introduce you all to the newer director for the Queen's office. As you know, Alexis, who many of you are familiar with, left the agency earlier part last year. But since then, Lynn Zhang has joined us. So just wanted to give a space for her to introduce herself.
Well, it's nice to meet you.
Hi, it's nice to meet you. Thanks, Colin, for the introduction. Lynn Zhang, I started in this role October of last year. So it feels like I've been here for not 5 months, but maybe 5 years. As you know, Queens is definitely like it is hopping. There's a lot happening, not just the rezonings, but Colin is working on one of the large neighborhood plans in LIC and in Jamaica as well. So maybe a little bit about myself. So my background and where I came from. I'm a native New Yorker, and I've only worked in nonprofit and local government. So I've been working with the city of New York for the past 15 years. Started out as a planner with the Manhattan Borough President, then Scott Stringer, and then moved on to the Department of Housing Preservation and Development for nearly a decade before my last position was with the School Construction Authority. So, very passionate about affordable housing and public infrastructure, and definitely hoping I could bring some of that here, working with the team in Queens. And I've been meaning to come to all the boards. Just there's been so much happening, but to introduce myself, just to meet you guys. And I know you are in good hands with Colin, but now you have another name and face to reach out to if you need.
I'm very glad you did that. Thank you very much, Lynn.
Yeah.
It means a lot to have personal contact. We had it with Alexis. We had it, of course, with John Young before her.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's very important, especially with this committee, because we are active, very active on this, and opinionated, to say the least.
Yes, as you should be.
So,
We want to hear your opinions.
okay. So, we appreciate your visit here. Does the committee have any questions for Lynn at this point? No? Okay. You're free. Colin, you want to take it over?
Sure. Just one more item before I start this presentation. I'll just note the last month, both Abby made a request about making the survey for the LIC public sites a bit more accessible. So I just wanted to share an update that some of our team members have been going out to Queensbridge houses at the Jacob Reese Center, to do some paper flyering, or rather to sit down with folks and help them fill out the survey in a paper format. I believe they've gone out twice already, and to my knowledge, I think we're planning to go again tomorrow morning to the Jacob Reese Center. So thank you for bringing that to our attention. And we're happy that we've been getting a lot of good paper responses on that.
I have another suggestion, which I haven't heard happen during the course of this study, and that's outreach and contact with the Dutch Kills area. And also, well, another issue is how we're going to deal with the special district. But why haven't you gone to the Dutch Kills Civic Association to talk about what's going on there, especially when you're talking about public areas? I don't know how, you know, how many public spaces there are in that area, but I'm sure the association has some idea of what they're looking for their neighborhood, not only for those sites, but also for new construction and the rezoning. So if you could address contact with them, what's going on?
Yeah, I'm sorry if I didn't update you about this when it happened. I would say about September or October, both Derek and I went out to an association meeting and presented on Long Island City and where we were at the time. Per your request, so I mean, I'm sorry if I forgot to make that update our next update.
You went to the Dutch Kills.
Yes, the Dutch Kill Civic Association.
And okay, I guess we have to talk with them to find out what kind of relationship did you establish with respect to this Long Island City plan?
So we gave a briefing on where we were at with the process and what our goals were. And so, yeah, we received a lot of feedback on what their thoughts were and their impressions of the last, rezoning in their area. And they definitely have a lot of concerns, specifically centered around hotels, which I think was an unintended, outcome of the last rezoning. I'm sure you're familiar with it. But yeah, we had a pretty generative conversation.
Okay. All right, we'll follow up with them then. So
Great.
you'd like to get to the business of tonight?
Yes. So I am going to be sharing a kind of informational presentation regarding our industrial plan. And just let me know if you're seeing the presentation mode.
Yes, it's on my.
Great. Okay. So sorry, let me just backtrack. So the New York City Industrial Plan is born out of a piece of legislation known as Local Law 172 in 2023, which was passed by the council in November of that year and requires the Department of City Planning, Small Business Services, along with the New York City Economic Development Corporation to develop a citywide industrial development plan. So what does industry mean? Historically, New York City was a really industrial powerhouse, and industrial activity was a major drive of its development as a global maritime and industrial center. And 70 years ago, about half of all jobs, or 1.8 million of them, in the city were industrial sector. Today, that industrial economy is much smaller, but it's also much more diverse and less concentrated in historically industrial areas. Today, New York City's industrial economy accounts for 550,000 jobs, or about 15% of the city's total private sector. And the industrial economy is really broad and inclusive of a wide range of subsectors. And so we've framed those into three primary subsectors: moving, making, and maintaining. There are around 250,000 jobs in the moving sector. Those are jobs that move goods like packages or food. There are another 250,000 jobs in that making sector. And when we say making, we're talking about things like manufacturing and construction, so the making of goods or buildings. And then in that maintaining sector, there are about 36,000 jobs. And jobs in that maintaining sector might entail work for a utility company or repairing cars. So to address some challenges that the industry is facing today, based on our engagement to date and research, 6 major challenges facing industry have been clear. One of which is that there's a significant demand for modern and affordable industrial space, and finding such spaces is difficult. We've also heard that for a range of reasons, the cost of doing business in New York City is high. Excuse me. Other challenges are that the nature of industrial activity is changing, and so is the required skill set of workers. The public realm conditions are often problematic. This means issues like insufficient lighting, dumping of trash, perceptions of safety, and illegal parking. Traffic, congestion, and roadway conditions are also cited as an issue. Finally, people are also expressed worry about harmful climate impacts like storms, urban heat island effect, and flooding. So what has the city done so far? The city has done several reports on sectoral or geographically specific parts of the industrial economy. These reports have provided recommendations at a neighborhood or issue-specific level, and never on an all-encompassing citywide level. Not to belabor the point, this is the first citywide industrial development plan in New York City's history. So through the industrial plan, we hope to guide the industrial sector's growth, ensure that New York City remains a good place for industrial businesses and workers, that we can allow industrial and non-industrial communities to better coexist with each other. And so what does this plan hope to accomplish? Currently, we are in the learning stage in the plan development. We are talking to community boards, stakeholders, industrial businesses, experts, and community members who have an interest in the industrial economy. This plan is being developed upon guidance from previous planning efforts and requirements laid out in the council legislation. We are to complete this plan by the end of 2025 and repeat production of the plan every 8 years subsequent. This report will include a data book on land use conditions and development patterns in industrial areas, as well as economic trends, conditions, and changes within the industrial economy. This product will include both research product and feedback from industrial stakeholders in the community. The plan requires that we define primary industrial areas, identifying parts of the city that are best suited for continued or future heavy industrial use. These are not zoning districts. Additionally, we are to make recommendations on ways to improve or expand existing incentive programs, land use tools, and other policies where possible. So with that, our hope is that we can work together on this plan to integrate industry into the fabric of our city, protect our industrial spaces, and plan for a future that is both economically vibrant and sustainable. So yeah, we would love for you all to get involved. We're planning to hold an info session in April. Once that date is set, I'll be sending out an email to Florence and asking all who are interested to attend. We also have a project website we encourage you to visit, which has more materials and background on the plan. There is also a survey for industrial businesses and anyone who is interested to share their thoughts with us on industrial and what they'd like to see included in this plan. I believe that was included in the link to this agenda, but I'll double check if I didn't send that along to Florence, and I can also share that with you as well. And so that just concludes the presentation.
Okay. Can we have our screen back, please? Thank you. So what information will be available to community boards with respect to the kinds of industrial uses that are in their area? Will that information be collected And will that be available for us to use? Because it's kept a close secret, a very close secret within the IBZs and privately owned places. And in order to understand how the areas are functioning with respect to zoning and now talking about mixed use zoning in these areas, we need to know what we're dealing with there. And that's a very, very big gap in the knowledge that we have about this community. So will this study get us that information, and will it be available? It'll get you that information, I'm sure, but will it be available to us?
Yeah, from my understanding, there's going to be a pretty robust data book included about land use conditions, trends, I believe sectors as well. I am actually unsure to what level of detail that will be parsed out by geography. So that's something I can follow up with, but our intention is for that to be publicly available knowledge.
So wait a minute, are we involved in this outreach you're doing? Is Board One and its IBZs involved in this? Or are
That's
you
right.
focusing on Brooklyn?
It's a citywide effort, so definitely CB1's included in that.
Oh, well, I think, let me just make a statement. I think you have to include Board One with the industrial areas we have, the amount of land that's dedicated to that. And I'm not talking about just the three in south, the western part. You have the Steinway IBZ also. So, and they're complaining up there vehemently about the conditions and what's happening in that area. So, yeah, I want to make a very strong statement about the fact that this district should be one of the prime ones that they study. Because it's losing its industry, it's losing its jobs. Evie?
Yeah, I think just along with that is like, I think it would be good to know why are the jobs being lost, right? Is it because they're being displaced? They're losing their leases? There's, land is being rezoned for other purposes. Like, I think we need to kind of get to the root causes of that because, yeah, I guess I'm just trying to really get a sense for what is this study really going to do. So yeah, and to Liz's point, I think she's right. I mean, there's a lot here. There's a lot that's exists. There's a lot that's disappeared. There's places that are vacant. Why are they vacant? I think all those kinds of things need to kind of get to the root causes of, otherwise it's really not going to be particularly useful, at least from my perspective.
And they continue to be ignored. I mean, I think we've spoken to the partnership and things like that, and there's just no connection. There's no information. It's so, Richard.
Yes, one of the tools that this study might use would be any kind of a neighborhood rezoning or looking at these areas in a holistic manner so that in fact the zoning is conforming. So business expansion is a lot less difficult because with lack of ULURPs, right now, if you want to expand your business and it's zone residential, you have to go through a whole ULURP process. That in itself could lose jobs because people may move out because it's very onerous. So I wondered if that might be a tool that you're going to be using at some point, developing out of this study.
Yeah, I think that's a really great question. Just to reiterate that there'll be no land use changes proposed as part of this industrial plan. It's a citywide approach to look at strategies to bolster industry throughout the city. That could be a potential outcome, is looking at ways that zoning can help support the industrial economy. But yeah, we're still in that learning phase. So more details to come.
Okay, thanks.
Right, and to add to that, I guess there's, there'll be a set of recommendations at the end. And, and zoning might be one of those, but, that's to be determined based on the analysis and all of the studies that they're doing now. So I think the questions you guys are raising tonight, they're really good ones that we could bring back. So that could further refine our study and analysis.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, I don't have anything else. Let's see, I don't think there's anything, yes, Amy, I'm sorry.
Thanks, Liz. I guess, with a lot of these studies, it's really important to have all the interagencies working together to solve some of these larger, thinking of how we can bolster anything, right? So, like, is there a list of agencies that will be part of this study? And I just want to make sure, like, all parties are involved. I mean, it's not just land use, it's the land use, it's infrastructure, it's DEP, it's everything. So I would like to make sure that all those agencies are involved.
Yeah, thanks for raising that, Amy. For some reason, your hand just really blends into the top left corner when you raise it on Zoom. But yeah, well, we definitely are engaging our partners, our partner agencies here. I'll give a list and try not to do the acronyms since it's pretty, soupy. But we are working, of course, with Small Business Services and the Economic Development Corporation, as I mentioned earlier. But along with that, we are engaging with the Department of Transportation, Environmental Protection, the Mayor's Office for Climate and Environmental Justice, and as well as the Department of Citywide Administrative Services. And then that's just the list I have, offhand. The Queen's Office isn't like leading this study, but these are the ones we're aware of, and we've had some preliminary interagency meetings to get that kicked off. So it's definitely top of mind for us too, to make sure that all of our agencies are aligned on that.
Okay. Jerry, did you have a question? I thought,
No, it's not a question. It's really just a statement. In the study, when you talk about businesses, because I deal with, as an architect, businesses all over the city, not only in Queens, all over the place. And the reason why we're losing businesses is because, in a nutshell, it's not because of zoning. It's not because of anything to do with land use. It has to do with the cost of doing business. And when you talk about the cost of doing business, the bureaucracy of even opening a business is insane. And then once you open a business, the city is killing you with taxes, with fines, violations. It's like insane. And I hear this all day, every day, and I deal with it. To get a CO in the city of New York, it's like a Herculean event. And I do it every day. It's sick. So it's and all the stuff that you have to deal with. Like, for example, if you have a property that's over 5,000 square feet, now all of a sudden you have to do a DEC and DEP sweep, they call it. Something that used to be just upstate New York. Now you have to do something so much additionally, because you're doing they want to make sure that that you have no runoff from your project site into the stormwater system. We're not talking about the aquifers up and the reservoirs upstate. We're talking about New York City. That could take alone 6 months to get that sweep approved with DEP. It's just, these are new laws every day. There's local laws. Now all of a sudden, because of the parking garage that fell down in Lower Manhattan, every warehouse in the city of New York all of a sudden is a parking garage. Think about that for a second. Just because they have a car or a truck in the garage, now they're a parking structure. So now you have to hire an engineer to verify that it's not a parking structure such that something that like what fell down in Lower Manhattan. It's just the pendulum switches and swings to the extreme in the city. And that's why people have so many clients that say, you know what? Forget about it. We're moving out. We'll go to Virginia. We'll go to Florida, where you're welcomed with open arms. And that's the point I want to make to Colin and the new district, the new the director. Please look at it in that perspective, that it's not just zoning, and obviously you're involved in zoning, but the study has to really look at it holistically relative to the cost of doing business in the city of New York. And that's why we have no jobs and we have no new businesses opening up in New York City. It's not worth it. One of my employees right now is in Spain. Why? It's very simple. It's half the cost of living in Spain. But I'm on the internet. She could live in Spain and enjoy a higher income because I have to pay her, but she's making big money from me with a lower cost of living in Spain. That's why China, everything goes to China. This is the point. So please look at it holistically, the cost of doing business, not just zoning. It has nothing to do with land use, very little to do with land use. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jerry. It's a point well taken. Just within my complex, I see how many new laws we have to comply with in a multifamily situation. It's, I'm not saying it's not warranted, but I don't think we have the personnel to follow up with everything that has to be done in a you know, in a timely fashion, which causes the delays and, you know, starts the whole moving out syndrome coming. Anyway, Jacqueline.
Well, thank you so much. I just want to piggyback on Jerry's comments that, and while representatives are here from city planning, I really thank you for your time. In the short time that I've been part of Community Board One, I've, earned an understanding about the initiatives that are going on in this area, the studies that are going on. And if I can respectfully say that I just feel that things are just so disjointed when it comes to the development of housing, how we're doing transportation, the building of, schools and necessary staples of the community. And it just seems to me that, what's missing is this overarching redevelopment plan of this area that encompasses all parts, right? It just seems that, conversations are in silos. It's industry, then it's residential, then it's affordable housing, then it's schools, but things are so disconnected. And speaking as a working parent, I'll give you insight into what it is to live here. We have to wait 20 minutes for the bus to get us to a school that is 1.7 miles. And then I have to, backtrack and get to a subway in order to go to work. And, the train, the R and N train, they have irregular service, especially on weekends. So even if we want to spend family time, it's difficult and you need to Uber or take a car. There's just so many things here that just feel like, again, they're siloed. And then all on top of that is just the construction and the structure of the streets and avenues in and of itself, right? There's all this land and all this space on Northern Boulevard. But then it has these large, it's becoming a thing where there are these large scale residential buildings that, quite frankly, no one locally can afford. And then you have really condensed areas where we had, the gentleman, represent a commercial developer client just earlier, talking about a very narrow avenue where they're going to build, on top of, a supermarket. And the disruption in that very corner, that intersection, is tremendous. And I think people, are not acknowledging that, not here in the committee, but the people on the client end are not acknowledging the disruption to our neighborhood. So I too urge and add my voice to just having city planning really consider a comprehensive redevelopment plan, one that takes into account the transportation, the schools, the housing that's being built, the transportation systems, and even the down to the traffic lights. Sometimes you'll have a one-way, a two-way, a weird Z pattern of how to get somewhere. It just doesn't seem like there's something comprehensive and seamless for people to just live and work here with ease. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Does city planning have a response? Are you going to take care of that? I don't know. I can't recall when the last time something comprehensively was put out by the department. So I know the master plan was done in the late 60s. That was the last time I think they did it. So, okay. If there are no other questions from the committee, I think we will thank you very much for enlightening us. And the timing on this is when will you be coming back to us with the next phase? I'm sorry, I don't recall that.
So we'll be having an info session in April. So I'll once we have that date locked in, I'll send that around. The release of the plan is at the end of 2025, but we'll work on when the next touch point will be with the board.
Okay. And don't forget our area.
Wouldn't dream of it, Liz.
Okay. Thank you so much for the presentation. And we'll see you at the board meeting then.
Yeah, thank you for your time.
Do you have any other updates? What's coming down the line for certification? I didn't check the calendar.
Nothing to share at this time.
Okay. The other thing, you were talking about the public sites community survey that was really for Board 2. With respect to District 1, have you identified any public sites, publicly owned sites that are within this going to be dealt with within this study, the Long Island City study?
Yeah, unfortunately, there's a really small number of public sites generally in this area of Long Island City. So there aren't any stretching within the blocks of our study area right there. But we're actively looking at other opportunities nearby to provide other sorts of amenities. But with respect to public sites, there's really not many opportunities.
So, are you going to share this with us? Because I was going to ask the committee, I was going to start talking about the fact that we should be looking at these sites and deciding what is the options we have on these sites in this area.
Yeah, sorry, could you clarify what you were looking for me to share with you?
From you, I would like to know what are the sites that you're talking about in this area, or there are none?
In terms of public sites, there aren't any on the blocks in Community District 1.
There are no city-owned sites in that area.
Nope.
That's correct.
So that can be looked at both ways. Let's see. Okay. All right. So I think I have to do a little more thinking about this, and I would a little more talking with committee members about how we can best, be ready for when this comes in the future. First of all, does city planning have a list of city-owned sites that are available through Pluto? Which I think is still available, isn't it?
Pluto is still a resource that is available online. We're not like the federal government. We're keeping all that stuff public. And so yeah, that would be a great resource to check ownership by the city.
Mhm. Okay. All right. We're going to talk about this because it's something, I mean, if you're moving ahead, it's a big, important issue in Board 2, I know, because they do have a lot of property, a lot of parcels of land that are city-owned over there. But we'll deal with it. We'll do our research and get back to you on that. Okay? Thanks a
you.
lot. Committee, let's see, let's go to the minutes. Any corrections, changes, issues with the minutes of February 5th? That was when we talked about the BSA gas station and ECOS. No? Okay, thank you. And then, well, public sites, community survey. At this point, it was this topic that was introduced to you, to whatever board, whoever is left here in our meeting. Evie, we ought to talk about this. So think about it, and maybe next month we could raise the issue again when we'll try to get some information to you about what sites are available, maybe neighborhood by neighborhood or something like that. So Evie,
Yeah, I just wanted to say that the survey, that public site survey is specifically regarding the sites within the one LIC
correct.
area. So, but Liz, you're saying you would like to know what are the sites
Well, within the
within
one,
CB1, not just within the one LIC, but just in general within CB1, right?
well, let's just talk to that also, that right now.
Yeah.
We're having approximately 4 blocks, a large area down there by Queens Plaza North being rezoned. The question is, if you're you're proposing an R10 equivalent down there. And I doubt you're going to be proposing anything that is going to be publicly accessible. Everything is going to be, whatever is constructed there is going to be only accessible to the residents of those new structures, whatever zoning ends up to be. So you're adding the density, the issues about the infrastructure, and then of course, open space is an issue in that area. So this is something that we have to look at with respect to the proposal that's coming up for those blocks by, north of Queens Plaza. It's just adjacent to the special district. And a residential core. So, what's happening?
I do want to say, and sorry to always complain, Colin. It's not you, but the survey itself is also very it's not an open-ended survey, it's like this is for DCP in general. I just find it like it's asking specifically about, if I remember, because I went and looked at it after that meeting that took place at PS and IS 78. But basically it's kind of like, again, the questions are very what's the word? Leading in a way as well, right? So I don't think you get a lot of options in terms of what's supposed to happen on those public sites. I think it's specifically kind of honed in on very specific things. I'm going to actually pull it up. But anyway, I just wanted to say, I'm glad the survey is now in, can be filled out in paper form. There's outreach to Queensbridge, but there are issues just for me with the survey itself, because it is leading.
There's no opportunity to explain other options.
Let me pull it up, but you keep talking and I'll just pull it up and I'll give you an example.
Richard, you have the floor.
Oh, me?
Yes, Richard.
Yeah, I just wanted to say about the public area around here, as far as I know, the only thing that we really have is the parking lots, the municipal parking lots. And there was that small piece of land that Parks is looking at in terms of trying to make a park up towards East Elmhurst, Astoria up there. That was that land where one individual was.
76th Street, yeah.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, I thought that was being that's one of the few pieces of public lands at all in our district that nobody considered affordable housing. I mean, the guy was going to put market rate housing in there, which made no sense to me. And I know that the Parks Department, it came to our committee because it wanted to make it into a park. But there is no public land in our district to speak of. That's why we had to lose a parking lot at Broadway and 31st Street to put the senior housing in. And the only other parking lots we have are the one on 30th and Steinway, and then the one down there on by Broadway and Steinway. And I doubt that. Well, who knows? Someday they may go. Who knows? But as far as finding out any other land, there is no other land that I'm aware of.
So
Mhm.
it's there's no other land for open space uses. That's
Oh,
I
for
think
public,
you have to qualify.
there's no land that's publicly owned, and I guess assume there may be some city agencies that have buildings and structures that I guess you could demolish. I mean, the reality is the biggest piece of public land we have, which hasn't moved in years, is the Ravenswood Department of Sanitation. That's ridiculous. We've been trying to do that for what, 10 years now, and
No longer.
coming down, they're actually reinforcing the building. It's, and I talked to workers over there, and they said, as far as what they've heard, that building's never coming down. So that whole concept of that we wanted to do to put affordable housing in there that sounds to me like that's our only opportunity, and I don't see it happening at this point unless some pressure's put on.
Well, we have to look to see how well this supermarket construction goes with putting it on top of an existing building. See how well that goes, because we have libraries that can be reconstructed, add to that. But I was talking, I was more concerned about the densities and public accessibility to open areas for all of the people who are moving into the new area, to these new buildings. And you're right, we don't have it. We have it's all along the waterfront. That's about all we have. And then the playgrounds, public playgrounds. So, but it's something to consider. I think we have to focus in on the Long Island City area that is under study now and see if there's anything that, we can bring to the table as a possibility. But it's a very troubling problem when you have that many units you're proposing and no contact, no local open space that's public for them.
The only thing to me is if you enforce, open space within the construction, is develop it, but you also enforce it. You don't want to have a situation like Shore Towers where they have a public open space, but it was closed off by Shore Towers, and now it is open, but for years it was a big fight. So there is a possibility of including it within these new buildings and with these structures, as long as there's real enforcement. It has to be. So,
well,
that's probably all there are options around here.
Right. When we approved the proposal down on Vernon Boulevard and 11th Street years ago, there was within that concept a public open space. They were short of making it an official POP space, publicly owned, public area. But they said that they were going to do that, and it never happened. The project itself never happened.
It still might happen, though. I mean, it's still.
It might. It might.
Are in the pipeline, financing being what it is and everything.
I'm sure they're redoing their drawings now, reconfiguring the buildings and, adding on the floor area that they allowed now. So, but anyway, I lost my train of thought. So that, Evie.
Well, I just want to say there's a difference between, publicly accessible open space and public space, right? Like public parks, public playgrounds. And so back to Jacqueline's point about, like, what's the vision? You know, part of the vision is to ensure that the city, you know, should be looking at acquisition of land to provide public amenities and public, like, I mean, that's kind of what used to happen, right? Wasn't all done through, you know, hoping that a private developer would grant, you know, a little concrete plaza, right, that people can access. I mean, we had like a vision for creating, you know, parks and playgrounds and all that kind of stuff. And so, you know, I know land is scarce, but it's still there, right? So we're getting into a larger kind of conversation, but I do think that that's part of it. It's like, you know, you hope that maybe you're going to get something out of private development, but that's not really the way that we should be. We really need to push for more public amenities.
Yes, that are truly public, that are owned by the city and et cetera. Okay, so I don't have, let's see, ULIP we did, next meeting is April 2nd. Are there any other issues, any business to be brought up by those remaining? Oh, Evie, you have your hand up still up? Or is that from before? Okay. Okay. I want to adjourn the meeting. It is 7:57 and we'll see you on the 8th, what is it, 17th, 18th of April. And thank you both for staying with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
An exciting conversation.
Nice to
listen
meet you.
And welcome,
And there's
welcome,
mine.
Lynn.
Thank you.
Excuse me? I didn't hear you, Evie. I'm sorry.
I just said welcome too, just like, you know, good to.
Yes, yes. I'm really glad to finally meet you. And it's we have not met before. So that said, who? I don't know who she is. Anyway, thank you all, and we'll see you at the meeting, the board meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good
Good
night.
night.
Right.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, Harish Studios. Thank you very much. You can close the meeting now.